Hello guys, once again Navneet tutorials for Commerce Booster, especially for class 12. Subject discussed here are accountancy, business studies, economics and entrepreneurship as per the new syllabus of MBOS 2018. The solved solution of 2019 and 2020 final year paper, that is class 12 final papers. Now we move to the discussion of economics 2020 question paper, where we will discuss regarding the macroeconomics and Indian economy. Page number 109. Hmm. 2020 economics new course. Full marks is 80. So 20 marks will be your internal. Time allotted by MBOS is 3 hours. The figure in the margin indicate full marks for the question general instructions. All questions in both the parts are compulsory. Marks for questions are indicated against each question. Question number 1 to 5 and 18 to 22 are objective type questions carrying 1 mark each. Question number 6 to 10, 23 to 27 are very short type answer question carrying 1 marks each. Answer to them should be in 1 sentence each. Question number 11, 12, 28 and 29 are short type answer question carrying 3 marks. Each answer to them should normally not extend 60 words each. Question number 13 to 15 and 30 to 32 are also short type questions carrying 4 marks. Each answer to them should normally not exceed 70 words each. Question number 16, 17, 33 and 34 are long type question answers carrying 6 marks. Each answers to them should normally not exceed 100 words each. Part A, Introductory Macroeconomics for 40 marks, 2020 economics paper. So the MCQ, let's begin with the MCQs, multiple choice questions. Number 1, the wear and tear of capital is called. Options are net investment, gross investment, depreciation, all of the above. Here the answer is option number C, depreciation. Question number 2, the number of times a unit of money changes hands during the unit period is called, for 1 marks. Option number A, velocity of circulation of money. Point B, high powered money. Point C, legal tender money. Point D, money multiplier. So the answer is point number A, velocity of circulation of money. Question number 3, ex ante investment means. Options are point number A, the value of plant consumption. Point B, the value of plant investment, that is future return investment. Point C, the method of calculating national income. Point D, none of the above. Here your answer will be point number B, the value of plant investment, that is future return investment. Question number 4, revenue deficit is referred to the excess of. Point number A, revenue expenditure over revenue receipts. Point number B, gross physical deficit over net interest liabilities. Point C, total expenditure over total receipts. Point D, revenue receipts over revenue expenditure. So the answer is point C, total expenditure over total receipts. Question number 5, when import exceeds export, there is a. Point number A, trade surplus. Point B, trade deficit. Point C, trade balance. Point D, all of the above. Answer is point number A, trade surplus or a favorable balance of trade. Question number 6. What is a flexible exchange rate? For 1 marks. A flexible exchange rate. Rate system is a monetary system that always the exchange rate to be determined by supply and demand. Every currency area must decide what type of exchange rate agreement to maintain between permanently fixed and completely flexible, however, are heterogeneous approaches. Question number 7. Mention the components of a budget or structure of a budget. For 1 marks. Answer is structure of the budget or components of the budget refers to the components of the budget to broad components of the government budgets are point number 1 budget receipts including revenue receipts and capital receipts, and point number 2 budget expenditure including revenue expenditure and capital expenditure. Question number 8. What is marginal propensity to consume? MPC. Marginal propensity to consume is the ratio change in consumption to change in income. The formula is MPC equals to change in consumer spending divided by change in income, or MPC equals to delta C by delta Y, whereas MPC equals to marginal propensity to consume, delta C equals to change in consumption, delta Y equals to change in income. Question number 9. Define money. Money is defined as an instrument that serves as a medium of exchange, store of value, measure of value, and standard of deferred payments. Or question number 9. Calculate the value of money multiplier if cash reserve ratio is 20%. In this, the solution is money multiplier equals to 1 by CRR, that is cash reserve ratio, whereas CRR equals to cash reserve ratio given in the question 20%. So 1 divided by 20 equals to 0.05. So the money multiplier is 0.05. Question number 10. What is high powered money? High powered money refers to monetary base or base money in the country. It includes point number 1 currency held by the people, point number 2 vault cash of the commercial banks, and point number 3 cash reserves of the commercial banks with the RBI. Question number 11. Distinguish between stocks and flows with example for 3 marks. Differences between stock and flows are 2 columns, stock and flows. Point number 1. Stock refers to the value of variable at a point of time. Flows refers to the value of a variable during a period of time. Point number 2. Stock is not time dimensional. It is measured at a specific point of time. Flow, point number 2, is the time dimensional. It is measured per hour, per month, or per year. Point number 3. Stock impact the flow. Greater the stock of capital, greater is the flow of goods and services. For example, wealth, labor force, capital, bank deposits, etc. Flow, point number 3. Flow impacts the stock. Greater the flow of income, greater is the stock of wealth with the people. For example, income, expenditure of money, capital formation, interest on capital, etc. Question number 11. Or find nominal GDP if real GDP equals to rupees 240 and price index is rupees 120. The same question you will get page number 63 of VK Ori TR Jain book of macroeconomics under the chapter of GDP calculation for 3 marks. Very simple. Nominal GDP equals to question mark, real GDP rupees 240, price index is 120, it is not in rupees. This information are given in your question. Now nominal GDP equals to real GDP multiplied by price index divided by 100. So 240 into 120 divided by 100. So the value comes 288. Question number 12. What are the measures of money supply according to syllabus? I have written according to syllabus because there are 4 types of M1, M2, M3 money measurement for M4. But as per class 12 syllabus, you have to only study M1. Okay. And the mantra for this to read is M1 equals to C plus DD plus OD. Here means C plus DD plus OD means M1 is money measurement, C equals to currency, D means demand deposit, and OD equals to other deposit. Very easy. According to M1 measurement, money supply includes the following components. The formula is M1 equals to C plus DD plus OD. Whereas M1 equals to money measure of money or money measurement, C equals to currency, DD equals to demand deposit, OD equals to other deposits. For only 3 marks. Question number 13. What is meant by full employment? Distinguish between voluntary and employment and involuntary employment. For 4 marks, 1 plus 3. Full employment. Full employment is an economic situation in which all available labor resources are being used in the most efficient way possible. Full employment embodies the highest amount of skilled and unskilled labor that can be employed within an economy at any given time. The distinction between voluntary employment and involuntary unemployment are 2 columns: voluntary unemployment, involuntary unemployment. Point number 1, willful unemployment under voluntary, and under involuntary, forced unemployment. Point number 2, laziness, ovation and with wealth. Under involuntary, point number 2, willing to work, looking for job but do not found. Under voluntary, point number 3, no serious economic problem. Under involuntary, caused by paucity of employment opportunities, so may be economic issue. Point number 4, under voluntary, may seek job but if not found then pretend to be voluntarily employed to be safe from embarrassment. Involuntary, want job of particular kind on particular terms at a particular place until they find pretended to be involuntary unemployed. Or question is, calculate autonomous consumption expenditure from the following data when the economy is in equilibrium. National income equals to rupees 1200 crore, marginal propensity to consume MPC equals to 0.8, investment expenditure rupees 100 crore. For 4 marks. Solution is national income denoted by capital Y equals to rupees 1200 crore, marginal propensity to consume MPC equals to 0.8, investment expenditure denoted by capital I equals to rupees 100 crore, autonomous consumption expenditure, that is C bar, equals to question mark we have to calculate. Now C equals to consumption equals to C bar plus BY. C means consumption, B equals to beta factor, that is MPC, Y equals to national income. Now C equals to C bar plus 0.8 into 1200, which gives us an equation, that is C equals to C bar plus 960 is an equation. At equilibrium, Y equals to income equals to C plus I, and whereas Y equals to income, C equals to consumption, that is C bar plus 960, and I equals to investment. So the calculation is, income is 1200, implies 1200 equals to C bar plus 960 plus 100. So C bar equals to 1200 minus 1060, again implies C bar equals to 140, that is 1200 minus 1060 equals to 140 crore. Therefore, autonomous consumption expenditure is the expenditure when there is no income situation, that is C bar equals to 140 crore. Question number 14. Distinguish between, for 4 marks. Point number A, revenue expenditure and capital expenditure. Let's begin. Difference between revenue expenditure and capital expenditure. Revenue expenditure, capital expenditure, two columns are made. Difference in meaning. So point number 1, revenue expenditure does not impact assets liability status of the government. Assets and liabilities are not increase or decrease. Under capital expenditure impacts assets liability status of the government. Assets are raised or liabilities are lowered. Point number 2, difference in significance. Point number 2, subpoint A, revenue expenditure, subsidies and law and order focuses on welfare of the people. It does not directly contribute to GDP growth. And point number B, under revenue expenditure, high revenue expenditure by the government by way of subsidies or old age pensions point to poverty of the people or backwardness of the economy. Under capital expenditure, point number A, capital expenditure, public investment focuses on GDP growth. It directly contributes to GDP growth. Point number B, high capital expenditure by the government points to the lack of private investment in the economy. Capital expenditure by the government is raised when the economy is suffering from deflationary gap. Second point of difference, difference between revenue receipts and capital receipts. Revenue receipts, capital receipts, two columns are made. Difference in meaning, revenue receipts do not impact assets liability status of the government. Assets and liabilities are not increased or decreased. Under capital receipts impact assets liability status of the government. Assets are lowered or liabilities are raised. Difference in significance. Point number A, revenue receipts do not leave any burden on future generation. Point number B, high revenue receipts as tax receipts point to sound financial health of the economy. Under capital receipts often leave burden on future generations. Example, borrowing leave the burden on future generations for the repayment of loans. Point number B, high capital receipts, borrowings and disinvestment point to poor financial health of the economy. Question number 15, for 4 marks, balance of trade and balance of payment. And point number B, devaluation and depreciation of currency. Let's move to our answer. Difference between balance of trade and balance of payment. Balance of trade is a summary statement of all economic transactions of a country with rest of world. Balance of trade is the difference between visible export, that is denoted by capital X, and visible imports, that is denoted by capital M. Point number 2, it records transaction related to goods as well as services. Under balance of trade, point number 2, it records transaction related to goods only. Point number 3, it records both current account as well as capital account transactions. Under balance of trade, point number 3, it does not record capital account transactions. Point number 4, balance of payment is denoted by BOP. Always balances provided movement of RBI reserves, official reserves is reflected in it. Under balance of trade, point number 4, it is either positive, that is export is greater than import, or negative, export is lower than import. It balances only when export equals to import. Difference between devaluation of currency and depreciation of currency are devaluation of currency, depreciation of currency. 2 columns are made. Point number 1, devaluation refers to fall in the value of domestic currency in relation to foreign. Depreciation of currency, point number 1, depreciation refers to fall in the value of domestic currency in relation to foreign currency as determined by the market forces of demand and supply of forex, that is foreign exchange market, in the forex market. Point number 2, under devaluation of currency, it is done by or through the government. Under depreciation of currency, point number 2, it occurs due to the market forces. Point number 3, under devaluation of currency, it occurs in fixed exchange rate system Point number 3, under depreciation of currency, it maintains the flexibility of exchange rate system. Point number 4, under devaluation of currency, huge reserves are acquired in the form of gold. Under depreciation of currency, point number 4, no huge gold reserves required. Next question. Question number 16. Explain the expenditure method of calculating national income. Let me tell you, there are 3 methods: income method, expenditure method, and the last but not the least, the value added method. Alright, for objectives you can remember this. Now I am going to explain the expenditure method. The expenditure method is a system for calculating gross domestic product that combines consumption, investment, government spending, and net exports. It is the most common way to estimate GDP, gross domestic product. It says everything that the private sector, including consumers and private firms, and government spends within the borders of a particular country must add up to the total value of all finished goods and services produced over a certain period of time. This method produces nominal GDP, which must then be adjusted for inflation to result in the real GDP. The expenditure method is the most widely used approach for estimating GDP, which is a measure of the economy's output produced within a country's borders, irrespective of who owns the means to production. The GDP under this method is calculated by summing up all of the expenditures made on final goods and services. There are 4 main aggregate expenditures that go into calculating. GDP consumption by households, investment by businesses, government spendings on goods and services, and net exports, which are equal to export minus imports of goods and services. Point number 1, points are: the expenditure method is the most common way of calculating a country's GDP. This method adds up consumer spending, investment, government expenditure, and net exports. Aggregate demand is equivalent to the expenditure equation for GDP in long run. The alternative method to calculate GDP is the income method. The formula for expenditure GDP is GDP equals to C plus I plus G plus X minus M, whereas C equals to consumer spending on goods and services, I equals to investor spending on business capital, G equals to government spendings, X equals to exports, M equals to import. Question number 17 for 6 marks. What is meant by propensity to consume? Explain the concept with the help of a suitable diagram. For 6 marks, propensity to consume. Propensity to consume refers to the proportion of income used as consumption expenditure. It is measured as the ratio between C and Y, consumption and income. So, C equals to function of Y. That is, propensity to consume equals to function of income. A, average propensity to consume. It is the ratio aggregate consumption expenditure to aggregate income. APC equals to C by Y, consumption by income, consumption expenditure by income. B, marginal propensity to consume. It is the ratio change in consumption to change in income. That is, MPC equals to delta C by delta Y, change in consumption expenditure divided by change in income. Now we move to the table. Income, consumption, APC equals to C by Y, delta C, delta Y, MPC equals to delta C by delta Y. Now let's see. 0, 100, 200, 300, 400 is the income. Consumption is 40, 120, 200, 280, 360. APC equals to C by Y. So 40 by 0 equals to nil. 120 by 100 equals to 1.2, 200 by 200 equals to 1, 280 by 300 equals to 0.93, and 360 by 400 equals to 0.90. Change in consumption equals to 80, 80, 80. That is, first is nil, second one is 120 minus 200, that is 200 minus 120 equals to 80, increase, again 80 increase, and again 80 increases. Change in income is also same. First is nil and other all are 100, 100, 100, 100. MPC equals to 80 by 100, 80 by 100, 80 by 100, 80 by 100. So we got 0.8 MPC, 0.8, 0.8, 0.8. Now observation. For APC, average propensity to consume, APC is greater than 1, APC equals to 1, lower than 1, and APC not equals to 0. For MPC, MPC is greater than 1, MPC equals to 1, greater or equal to 1, sorry. MPC is greater, lower or equal to 1, MPC equals to 0. Alright. Then, wait a second. Hello? Hello? हाँ खाना होगा. हम थोड़ा 10 मिनट में तो से बात कर रहे थे. थोड़ा क्लास. Now we can see the diagram in the format of L shape, that is x-axis and y-axis. Under x-axis we see consumption, under y-axis we can see income, and this is 45-degree angle which corresponds above C equals to A plus BY, that is autonomous consumption. Y equals to C, income equals to consumption, because if you have income then only you can consume. If you do not have income then also you consume. That is only called APC. Alright. Now we move to our explanation of this diagram. We can see why this is called the 45-degree diagram. There is a line that comes diagonally out of the origin at an angle of 45 degree. The reason why these diagrams have this 45-degree line is that for every point on the line, the value of whatever is being measured on the x-axis is equal to the value of whatever is being measured on the y-axis. In this case, that means income equals to consumption. Actually, this fact is not so important when dealing with consumption function, but it is very important if the y-axis is measuring planned expenditure, equilibrium, national income occurs where y equals to E, that is income equals to expenditure, and this would be very point on the 45-degree line. Anyway, the other line in the diagram is the one that represents consumption in the economy at each level of income. For simplicity, we shall assume that we are dealing with a two-sector model of the economy. Household either consume or save their income. The line starts at point A, that means that even when income is 0, consumption is A. This is called autonomous consumption. How can household consume if they have no income? We have to assume that saving is negative or that this saving is going on. In other words, household have to borrow money to consume or dip into previously saved money, while they temporarily, one hopes, have no income. As income rises, consumption also rises. The gradient of the line represents something called the marginal propensity to consume. This is the amount of every extra pound or money or rupee earned that is spent. If you earned an extra rupee 1 and spent 60 paise of it, then the value of MPC would be 0.6. Notice that if you spent 60 paise of an extra rupee 1, you must by definition be saving the other 40 paise. Hence the marginal propensity to save MPS will be 0.4. It should also make sense that MPC plus MPS equals to 1. Consumption plus saving equals to 1. Now this highlighted image, marginal propensity to consume equals to change in consumption by change in income, and marginal propensity to consume or to save, change in savings divided by change in income. All right. Or next question, explain the working of the investment multiplier with the help of table. The answer is, investment multiplier or output multiplier refers to the number of times by which the increase in output by or income, that is change in income, exceeds the increase in investment, that is change in investment. It is measured as the ratio between change in output divided by income and change in investment. Between change in output or income and change in investment. So K equals to change in income divided by change in investment, which may be written as K equals to 1 by change in I divided by change in Y. K equals to 1 by change in S divided by change in Y. K equals to 1 by MPS. K equals to 1 by 1 minus MPC. Here S equals to I at equilibrium level of income, MPS equals to change in S by change in Y, as MPC plus MPS equals to 1, or MPS equals to 1 minus MPC. K equals to investment multiplier, change in Y equals to delta Y, change in income, delta I equals to change in investment. Investment multiplier process table, rounds are there, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There are 10 rounds. Increase in investment expenditure, rupees in crore, 100 dash 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 dash, total is 100 only. Change in income, that is delta Y equals to rupees crores, 100, 50, 25, 12.5, that is divided by 2 all. 3.12, 1.56, 0.78, 0.39, 0.20, altogether total is 200. Induced change in consumption, MPC equals to 0.5. So 100 into 0.5 equals to 50.00, 25.00, 12.50, 6.25, 3.12, 1.56, 0.78, 0.39, 0.20, 0.10, altogether equals to 100. Leakage or saving rupees crores is the same, 50, 50.00, 25.00, 12.50, 6.25, 3.2, 12, 1.56, 0.78, 0.39, 0.20, 0.10, and the altogether is 100. Now note, assume MPC equals to 0.5. Now we move to the explanation of the table. Point number 1. The above table shows the result of initial increase in investment by rupees 100 crore in round 1. Our assumption is that MPC is 0.5. Hence, because of the increase in income by rupees 100 crore, consumption will increase by rupees 50 crore and remaining rupees 50 crore will be saved. In round 2, because of expenditure of rupees 50 crore on consumption, there will be an increase in income by rupees 50 crore. Now, change in income equals to rupees 50 crore would be split into change in consumption equals to rupees 25 crore and change in savings equals to rupees 25 crore. Point number 3, on account of increase in consumption, expenditure by rupees 25 crore, there will be increase in income by rupees 25 crore. In round 3, now change in income equals to rupees 25 crore would be split into 12.5 crore equals to change in consumption and 12.5 crore in change in savings. Accordingly, in round 4, income will increase by rupees 12.5 crore. In different time periods as shown in the table, income will go on increasing as a result of increase in consumption expenditure. Total increase in income rupees 200 crore. Since increase in investment, that is change in income, change in investment equals to rupees 100 crore, and increase in income, change in income, that is delta y equals to rupees 200 crore. It follows that multiplier equals to 2. Now let's see the formula. K equals to investment multiplier equals to change in income divided by change in investment, which is equals to K equals to 200 divided by 100 equals to 2, or K equals to 1 divided by 1 minus MPC, which also gives 2. Observation: obviously, higher MPC would have caused greater increase in income, implying a higher value of multiplier. Part B. Indian economic development for 40 marks. Question begins with the MCQs. Question number 18. Adoption of new technology is called. Options are modernization, liberalization, privatization and globalization, and the answer is option A, modernization. Question number 19. Integrating the domestic economy with the economies of other countries is known as. Option A, liberalization, B, globalization, C, privatization, and D is none of the above. So the answer is point number B, globalization. Question number 20. The data on poverty is made available to the public by. Option A, Planning Commission, B, National Commission, C, State Commission, D, District Commission. So the answer is Planning Commission, nowadays Niti Aayog. Question number 21. The ratio which is used for analyzing the employment situation in the country is derived from. Option A, world population ratio, B, worker population ratio, C, cash reserve ratio, D, statutory liquidity ratio. And the answer is option number B, worker population ratio. Question number 22. The Great Leap Forward GLP campaign initiated in 1958 aimed at dash the country. Option A, industrializing, B, privatizing, C, globalizing, D, all of the above. And the answer is industrializing, privatizing and globalizing, all of the above. Question number 3. Mention the three elements of. Question number 23. Mention the three elements of New Economic Policy 1991 for 1 mark. So the New Economic Policy 1991 are LPG, liberalization, privatization and globalization. Question number 24. Define poverty line for 1 marks. Poverty line, it refers to that line which indicates per capita average monthly expenditure required to satisfy minimum need of the households. Poverty is measured by the number of people who fall below a certain level of income, called the poverty line. Question number 25. Mention any two major sources of human capital in a country. Answer is human capital refers to the stock of skill and expertise of a nation at a point of time. The two major sources of human capital in a country are point number 1, investment in education, point number 2, investment in health education and health are considered an important input for the development of a nation. Question number 26. What is infrastructure? Infrastructure, it refers to support system of economic and social development of a country, without which growth and social development is not possible. Question number 27. what is Human Development Index? Answer is Human Development Index. The HDI is the summary measure of average achievement in key dimensions of human development, a long and healthy life, being knowledgeable and have a decent standard of living. The HDI is the geometric mean of harmonized indices for each of the three dimensions. Question or 27 or what is infant mortality rate? The infant mortality rate is the number of infant deaths for every 1000 live births. In addition to giving us key information about maternal and infant health, the infant mortality rate is an important marker of the overall health of the society. Question number 28. Explain three problems of Indian agriculture. The three problems of Indian agriculture are lack of permanent means of irrigation. Crop farming in India is heavily dependent on rainfall. Permanent means of irrigation are extremely deficient. Deficiency of finance is another major problem facing Indian agriculture. Institutional finance, referring to finance by the banking and other financial institution, is extremely scarce in relation to the needs of the farmers. Point number 3, conventional outlook. Despite innovative farm technology and farm management practices, Indian farmers continue to rely on conventional wisdom. Or the question is, question number 28 or give three merits of GST. The three merits of goods and service taxes are GST eliminates cascading effect of tax. Point number 2, higher thresholds for registration. Point number 3, composition scheme for small businesses. Point number 4, simple and easy only procedure. Point number 5, the number of compliances is lesser. Point number 6, defined treatment for e-commerce operator. Point number 7, improved efficiency of logistics. Point number 7, improve efficiency of logistics. Point number 8, unorganized sector is regulated under GST. I have written more points because it will help you to gain more knowledge. If the question will be same and marks will be increased, so you can write down 2 or 3 more points. So whichever is easy, you can study that one. Question number 29 for 3 marks. Explain the effects of economic development on the environment. Answer is, the environmental impact of economic growth includes the increased consumption of non-renewable resources, higher level of pollution, global warming, and the potential loss of environmental habitats. For example, a decline in source of oil, gas, coal, loss of fishing stock due to overfishing, loss of species diversity, damage to natural resources has led to species extinction. Question number 30. What are the benefits of organic farming? The economic benefits for adopting economic farming in India are: number 1, Punjab paddy straw turned to compost instead of burning, GHG and air pollution decline. Point number 2, states strict enforcement of agrochemical inputs, algal bloom, vulture death, Kerala endosulfan tragedy prevented, C9H6Cl6O3S is the chemical equation of endosulfan tragedy. Economical benefits: international prices equals to twice the farmer income and job. And second is government urea subsidy burden will decline. Conclusion: appreciate organic farming for SDG, that is Sustainable Development Goals, and twice the farmer's income. Question number 31. What measures would you suggest to solve the problem of unemployment in India? The measures to solve the problems of unemployment in India are: labor intensive techniques to indulge more workers and less technology. Point number 2, population control to take medical precautions so the number of unemployment decreases. Point number 3, encourage self-employment. Encouragement incentives given to the individuals of the country for new startups. Point number 4, policy of decentralization, division of work among different individuals to create job opportunities. Point number 5, restructuring the educational system, formulation and implementation of new educational policy as per the availing situation of the country. Point number 6, importance to employment program in plans. Point number 7, high rate of capital formation. Point number 8, increase in production and productivity. Now, question number 31, or explain how human capital can promote economic development. Human capital and economic growth have a strong correlation. Human capital affects economic growth and can help to develop an economy by expanding the knowledge and skills of its people. Human capital refers to the knowledge, skill set and experience that workers have in an economy. The skills provide economic value. Service is in knowledgeable workforce can lead to increased productivity. The concept of human capital is the realization that not everyone has the same skill sets or knowledge. Also, the quality of work can be improved by investing in people's education. Question number 32 for 4 marks. Bring out a comparison between India and China on the basis of point number A, GDP growth, and point number B, human development indicators. The answer is comparison of GDP growth between India and China on the following points. The points are GDP growth rate. Prior to economic reform, GDP growth rate was very low in both the countries. After reforms, there was a breakthrough, but China surpassed India in achieving GDP growth rate of nearly 10% per annum, and that to almost consistently. In case of India, GDP growth rate has yet to touch the double digit. Next point, structure growth. The country showed a structural transformation, recorded a decline in percentage share of primary sector and rise in percentage share of secondary and tertiary sectors in the GDP. Also, there has been a shift of workforce from primary to secondary and tertiary sectors. However, in case of China, the shift has been more to secondary sector, while in case of India, the shift has been more to tertiary sectors. A substantial growth of export-driven manufacturing sector in China has been the distinct factor. Next point, demographic indicators. Growth rate of population has been cut to half in China following strict enforcement of its policy of one-child norm. India is still wrestling with the problem of high growth rate of population, which is about 1.17%, 2017 estimates in India. Despite large size of population, density of population is low in China thanks to its geographical area. Next point, sex ratio is formed to be low in both the countries, pointing to social backwardness where people hold high preference for a son in the family. Point number B, comparison between India and China on the basis of human development indicators. Point number 1, life expectancy. Point number 2, adult literacy rate. Point number 3, percentage of population below poverty line. Point number 4, infant mortality rate. Point number 5, maternal mortality rate. Point number 6, percentage of population having access to improved water sources. Point number 7, percentage of population which is undernourished. Point number 8, percentage of population having access to improved sanitation. Point number 9, GDP per capita. In most areas of human development, China has performed better than India. China's HDI, human development indicators, rank in the world is 85, whereas India is in 129 respectively. However, India may attain a higher ranking if some liberty parameters are included in HDI. Question number 33. Distinguish between absolute poverty and relative poverty. Briefly explain any 4 poverty alleviation program adopted in the country. For 6 marks. The difference between absolute poverty and relative poverty are 2 columns, relative poverty and absolute poverty. Under relative poverty, point number 1, it refers to poverty of people relative to other people, region or nations. Absolute poverty, point number 1, it refers to total number of people living below poverty line. Point number 2, under relative poverty, when we say India is relative poor, then it is in comparison with other countries. The comparison is that of per capita income of different countries. Under absolute poverty, point number 2, the concept has relevance for less developed countries. Point number 3, under relative poverty, within India, relative poverty is calculated with the help of Lorentz curve and Gini coefficient. Under absolute poverty, point number 3, India, absolute poverty is calculated with the help of poverty line. Point number 4, under relative poverty, India is relatively one of the poorest countries of the world and its per capita income is less than on dollar per day. Absolute poverty, point number 4, in India, 219.8% of total population is absolutely poor. Measures adopted by the government to remove poverty and unemployment or poverty alleviation programs are: point number 1, Swarna Jayanti Gram Swarojgar Yojana SGSY to remove poverty from the rural areas. Swarna Jayanti Gram Swarojgar Yojana was launched in the village in April 1999. Under this program, a large number of small enterprises were set up in rural areas. The small enterprises were organized as individual enterprise as well as on collective basis of self-help groups, SHGs. Point number 2, National Rural Livelihood Mission, NRLM. This scheme is also known as Ajivika. In the first phase, this scheme was implemented in 150 districts. In the year 2012 to 2013, NRLM is expected to provide self-employment 90 lakh person. The program is now renamed as Deen Dayal Antyodaya Yojana. Point number 3, Sampurna Gramin Rojgar Yojana SGRY. Sampurna Gramin Rojgar Yojana was launched on 1st September 2001. The main objective of this Yojana are: point number 1, to provide employment opportunity to the surplus workers, to focus on the development of regional economic and social conditions. Point number 3, to focus on the development of infrastructure. Point number 4, Pradhan Mantri Gramodaya Yojana PGY. It was launched in 2001. It aimed at improving the standard of living of the rural people by developing 5 important areas: health, primary education, drinking water, housing and roads. Question number 34, what are the main goals of 5-year plans? Explain. Very authentic and very old question, but old is gold, as we used to say. This question is very important. There are basic generalized goals of a 5-year plan, where in a particular plan 1 or 2 are given the most importance. In fact, some of the goals are actually conflicting. So let us look at these 4 types of goals we cover in the 5-year plans. Growth is the first one. This is the first and the most basic goal of an economic plan. Growth in terms of an economy focuses on the increase of the gross domestic product of the country. GDP is a way to measure the growth of an economy. Higher the GDP, more the common public can benefit from the economic policies of the country. This economic growth actually happens due to an increase in the production capacity of a nation for either its goods or its services. This can be due to an influx of capital into the economy as well. The sector in which the growth is happening is also important. There are 3 basic sectors: agriculture, industrial and service. Their respective contributions make up the structural composition of the GDP. For very many years, India's primary focus was the agricultural sector. It was the main contributor to our GDP and it also saw the highest growth rate in the few initial 5-year plan. Next point is modernization. It refers to the integration of technology in the economy. Innovation, invention and advancement in the technology play a huge part in upgrading our economy. And increasing its output. Over the year, the Indian economy also saw a major boom in the IT industry due to modernization. Another aspect of modernization would be our advancement as a society, leaving behind discriminatory practices and pushing towards an equal, fair and modern society. Self-reliance is the next point. A new economy like India's post-independence can become too reliant on imports. So for 7th edition of the 5-year plan, the government promoted self-reliance. This basically meant that anything we were capable of producing domestically, we did not import. Especially food and agricultural products were never imported as long as possible. This was to ensure we not only become self-reliant but also to protect our sovereignty, because importing basic essentials from other nations would make us dependent on them. After 1991, government finally opened up the economy to the global market once we had already established a domestic base. Next point is equity. Now the previous 3 goals mainly related to the economy, but the development of economy only is not sufficient. The 5-year plan must also focus on the development of our society. It is essential to ensure that these benefits from the economy are enjoyed by all members of the society. This is where equity comes in. Equity focuses on ensuring that all citizens of our country have their basic needs for food, housing, clothing, etc. fulfilled. It also looks to reduce the wealth gap and the inequality in our society. Next question, or define small scale industry, explain how they help in promoting rural development, for 6 marks. Small scale industry are those industries in which the manufacturing, production and rendering of services are done on a small or micro scale. These industries make a one-time investment in machinery, plants and industries, but it does not exceed rupees 1 crore. Small scale industries help in promoting rural development are: point number 1, non-farm employment. Traditionally, rural households in India were exclusively engaged in agriculture, but now rural households have varied and multiple sources of income and participate in a wide range of non-agricultural activities. Range of non-agricultural activities such as wage employment and self-employment in commerce, manufacturing and services, along with the traditional rural activities of farming and agricultural labor. This can be largely attributed to setting up of agro-based rural small industries. Point number 2, prevention of migration. Development of rural and village industries can also prevent migration of rural population to urban areas in search of employment. Point number 3, employment for artisans, cottage and rural industries play an important role in providing employment opportunities in the rural areas, especially for the traditional artisans and the weaker section of society. Point number 4, poverty alleviation. Village and small industries are significant as producers of consumers goods and absorbers of surplus laborers, thereby addressing the problems of poverty and unemployment. Promotion of small scale industries and rural industrialization has been considered by the Government of India as a powerful instrument for realizing the twin objective of accelerated industrial growth and creating additional productive employment potential in rural and backward areas. Socio-economic aspect. These industries contribute apply to other socio-economic aspects such as reduction in inequalities, dispersed development of other sector of the economy. That's all for 2020 paper. I have solved and I have read it, and bit I have explained also. By reading only you can understand it. I have used very easy language which makes you easy to understand. But the thing is this, you have to study. If once you study, you will not get the, or you will not acquire the knowledge if you will study twice, thrice, read it, revise it again and again, you will acquire the knowledge how to write in your examination. So examination is coming. Prepare for the well and collect all the notes. Don't run for the notes at the end of the movement. All right. That's all. Thank you.